Most people think skills, degrees, or certifications alone define their success. But here's the truth: the invisible factor that often determines whether you get noticed, get promoted, or even feel confident is your emotional clarity. Unresolved emotions, resentment, or self doubt quietly hold people back every single day without them even realizing it. Today's guest works with this hidden power. She is a forgiveness expert, a spiritual wisdom mentor, and energy healer, helping people release emotional pain, overcome resentment, and connect with inner clarity, skills that silently multiply your impact in life and work. So, please welcome Nicole Harvck. So, how are you, Nicole? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm doing very well today and appreciate you getting a hold of me so I can talk about what I do. I think more people need to hear it.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for giving me your precious and valuable time for this podcast. Without your time, without your presence, it could not be, you know, could happen without you and your presence. And so, guys, it's been probably one or more than that, a month, since I had recorded my last podcast, and I am feeling so super excited and super energetic. After a month getting again on camera and doing this because I always I do not do only the podcast. I put my heart into these conversations, prepare for this conversation, and these people who I invite on my podcast, gives me more energy to do this. So I'm super excited, and the topic will be about forgiveness and the future, the future of work, as I always talk about that. So, first of all, Nicole, we would like to talk about your own story. Before you became a and emotional clarity expert, what personal experience first showed you that emotional freedom was so powerful?
My story is pretty common. Back in 2013, I was married with two children, and I found out my husband was cheating on me. And so I had to go through the pain of learning about that, learning about how he did it. I found out through my younger daughter, who was in sixth grade at the time. So that was quite devastating. So learning that way in itself was absolutely, I was heartbroken. And what I realized after a while is that I could no longer bear that pain. So I started trying to heal myself. So what I did is I have so many certificates in sound healing, tuning forks, which are sound, in quantum healing, just hypnosis, all everything. But I wasn't getting better. What was happening is my hair was falling out and I was scratching my skin until I bled. And so, after some soul searching, it finally dawned on me the thing missing that I wasn't taking care of. I wasn't forgiving him and I wasn't forgiving myself. And once I started on that journey, that's when the healing really began.
It's super amazing. So then you forgive yourself and your husband. Is that right?
You know, one thing people don't understand about forgiveness is it's really not about the person that hurt you or caused you harm. What you're doing is you're carrying the pain and the trauma that was caused from finding out that he had been cheating, finding out he had been lying to me. And so what I realized is I was very angry at myself because I never stood up to him or I never used my voice to tell him all these things. So I started with forgiving myself for not standing up for me, for not being in my corner. So I started releasing that. And when I started releasing that pain, the pain of what he did started releasing because I had been holding it in. You could feel it. You can feel it in your chakras. It causes headaches. There's so Trauma causes dis-ease. It's a dis-ease in your body with something that has happened. And when I realized that and started utilizing forgiveness, everything just started melting away. My anger, my fear, my rage, my pain. And I started becoming more of like that person who I was rather than the person that I didn't want to be.
Exactly. Exactly,
Mhm.
Nicole. Um,
And it's not overnight. It's not an overnight process. It is a lot of work. And, my work started in about 2014, and I'm still working on myself today. What I is that over the years, from childhood to adulthood to parenthood, there's so many things that happen to us, and it can be something as simple as someone that says something to you. You're stupid, you're ugly, that's an ugly outfit, just something very, very small that can stick in us. And we bury it in our subconscious. We bury it so deeply we don't know that it's there. But a lot of things that we do, like the pain, sometimes it creates a scenario where we want to hurt others because we're hurt.
exactly, exactly. And I don't know whether I should, mention this here or not, but probably in all religions it is mentioned that the person who forgive others is greater than other people. The people who were teasing you, the people who were really putting you in trouble, then you finally forgive them, and nobody is better than you, because this is, not everyone can do this. This really requires a great heart, a big heart, and you really had that. uh, that's why you forgive. So, Nicole, when I do research, when I search this term on YouTube, which is trauma, then I get many results, different results. Some people say it is that, some people say it is that. People have their own different opinions about trauma. So if I would ask you what trauma really is, how would you describe it in your own words?
For me, trauma is anything that keeps you stuck. Trauma is anything that keeps you from being yourself. Trauma triggers and limiting beliefs. So what's happening is you might look around and say, I want to do this, but because you have some stuck trauma in there from maybe someone telling you you're stupid, you're not worthy, you're uneducated, you're untrained, that's stuck in your body and that's working overtime. And you can't find the courage to step forward or to do what you would like to do because that is still living in your body.
Exactly. That's incredible. Um, so many people think that forgiveness is weakness, and this is the sad reality of our environment. Of the people who live around us. They think like that. So why do you see it as a strength, especially in the context of building a career or taking big life steps?
One of the things I think people don't understand that forgiveness is just for us. It really has nothing to do with the other person. And people have asked me, well, did you tell him you forgave him? I said, no, I don't have to. It's for me. It's to give me peace. It's to help me walk my path of emotional freedom. You never have to. And I remember my ex-husband telling my girls, well, your mom isn't living what she talks about because she said she forgave me, but she won't come back to me. Well, it's not about that. It's about getting rid of the pain that someone else caused that's stuck in your body. And people think it's weak or they're condoning the act that the person did. No, you're not. Why? If this person hurt you so badly that there's trauma stuck in your body, why would you want to continue to carry that around? Because they didn't care enough for you to not do it, yet you're letting them live inside of you, still punishing you.
Exactly, Nicole. And that's an important clarification, I would say, because many people believe that if someone, people tease other people, then when they forgive those people who are teasing them, So they think that those people would come again in their lives. But if they do not do, so that means they wanted to get rid of those, trauma, that, bad memory, that those things that was that were teasing them every night. They would, lay onto their bed. So they just wanted to get rid of that. That's why they forgive those people. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And, there's a very good quote by Gandhi, and he says, forgiveness is not for the weak. Forgiveness is an attribute of the strong. And so you're gathering your strength to be whole again, to be that person you want to be that person that can walk in front of people, look them in the eye, not maybe shrink because you're afraid someone said something about you and you're carrying it in you and you believe it and it's just not true. And I still forgive myself because sometimes something will pop up and it's like I'm being shown you thought you got everything, but you didn't. So you take care of it as you go. And I now realize forgiveness is a lifelong journey.
Exactly, Nicole. Um, a lot of events happens in our life when we think that we had to be smart enough at that time. Why didn't I do that? If that person was screaming on me, why didn't I reply and in anger to that person? That often happens in our life. But only thing that can help us get out of that situation is forgiving ourselves. If we forgive ourselves at that time, we can finally get out of that situation, or otherwise we can be trapped in that situation for decades, or for probably for the rest of our life.
Absolutely. And that's a great observation because I learned this firsthand. And what I tell people now, and when I work with people that need to be healed, I tell them all healing starts with forgiveness. All forgiveness starts with yourself. You can't heal with this big wound inside of you. And it can start making you sick. And I use my mother as an example because she found out that she and my dad had been divorced for years. And she found out she had breast cancer. By the time she had it diagnosed, she was stage 4. So, we knew we couldn't save her. But she had always told me, she told me, I've forgiven your dad. I've let it go. I've released it. I don't, she was just determined to make people understand I've forgiven him. But what I have to tell you, and this was the biggest epiphany for me, was about 3 days before she died, she looked at me and she says, he slept with all of my friends. And I knew in that moment she had never forgiven him because when you're 3 days from dying, that shouldn't be a memory. That shouldn't be something you say. For me, I want to be around my kids telling them how much I love them, not telling my daughter that your father slept with all my friends. So for me, my first thought was, oh my gosh, she never forgave my dad. And because I was going through a divorce, when she told me that, I said to myself, I will never let a man take my life. And that just accelerated my path to forgiving myself.
Wonderful. So, Nicole, you are a forgiveness expert. So, you must experience a lot of cases, where um, you know, you tell people how to forgive, or whether, all the things, because obviously you get a lot of those cases. So, you mentioned about your own story of forgiveness. Then you just mentioned about your mother. So, what story do you have currently in your mind that you think is the most, like, heartbreaking story that you ever experienced, where person had to forgive a person, but that person was so cruel, so uh, inhuman, that that could not be possible, or something like that?
I'll honestly have to share my own story because I was married for almost 25 years to a very narcissistic and mean individual. And the person he picked on the most was me. I could never, no matter what I wore, it didn't look right. You should try this. My hair never looked right. And he would always look at me. And because I didn't graduate from college, I was uneducated and untrained. And even I remember my girls coming into the house one day and looking at me and telling me, Mom, Dad's on the phone with someone. He says, Yeah, I married a waitress, which I had been when we first met. But when we actually married, I got into real estate and was a loan officer working with him. So he always looked down on me. He always put me down. And it honestly, it almost broke me. And so when I finally utilized forgiveness, which took a while, it's not overnight. That's one thing I will tell you. It is not overnight. There's a lot of pain that goes with it, reliving those things so you can release them. There's a lot of tears that flow because you never cried in the first place. They build up and then you release. But the beauty of that is you're releasing the trauma in your tears. And when I started forgiving myself for 25 years of he wouldn't call it abuse because it's just words. It was never physical, but words can be very, very painful. And I had to do a lot of work, a lot of understanding that I was indeed smart, I was worthy. And that's when I thought, I will never let this happen again. I'll always use my words to protect myself.
That's really incredible. So Nicole, although forgiveness and career are two different words, but is there any way we could combine both words? Is there any story you have in your mind where someone had to forgive before making his own or her own career?
Yes, I've worked with a lot of people that when you don't understand forgiveness, you really don't know how important it is. But one of the things, like I say, forgiveness starts with yourself. And when you're coming to the end of your life, or you're finally realizing that you don't want to end it being angry at the world, you have to start forgiving yourself. And it's okay. It's okay that it took you this long. If it did, that was your path to bear. But I have worked with people that are very close to the end, and they don't want to leave this earth in anger, pain, or anything that they deem very detrimental to themselves. And I just tell them, just tell yourself you love yourself. Give yourself a hug. You are worthy, or you would not be here. And so those kind of stories are really tough when you know what's coming is inevitable, and they've spent maybe a majority of their lives being mad or angry with themselves and others. And it's a very good lesson for me as well, because I know I'm on the right path for helping people. People do need to release that. They need to let it go. And that does take you to self love because you don't have that hate and anger in you anymore. Anytime you get rid of an emotion, guess what? You get to fill it with something else. And we're going to fill it. If you work with me, we're going to fill it with something positive, with love, with joy, with happiness. And then every morning when you wake up, the first thing you're going to go to is that feeling in your body, and you're going to have gratitude because you're waking up happy. You're waking up with joy in your heart. You're waking up free of anyone else lingering in your body. And it's just a whole paradigm shift. It's a whole paradigm shift. And that's how you need to start your day. You will find that you don't, it's when you do that, you start raising your vibration and your frequency. And when you do that, how I say it to people is your vibration is high, other people's are lower. So you don't meet head on. You're up here, they're down here. You really don't see them or have to interact with them because they're different than you. They can walk right by you and never see you. because you're vibrating higher. And so you don't have to really worry about other people. I tell them, I said, just keep your vibration high, do what you need to do, and trust me, it works like that.
Exactly. So, Nicole, it's finally 2026. 2025 has finally passed. A lot of things bad happened in our life in that year. A lot of things are related to bad memories in our mind, but a lot of things were related to good incidents that were happened. Maybe someone started their podcast, maybe someone helped someone in a better way, and got prayers from that person, and that could be a lot of things. So how do you see this year, the year of 2026? What are the opportunities can you see in this year are gonna bring, and what's the situation of AI with all those jobs? Because AI is the most important topic, for us, especially in this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And 2025 was a 9 year. If you add up the numbers, it comes to nine. So it's an ending. So it's the year, and it was the year of the snake. So you're shedding skin, you're getting rid of everything that doesn't serve you. You go inside and you look at yourself and you're like, well, I did that. What did I learn? But it didn't work. So you release it, you surrender, you let it go because it's over and it's done with. You step into 26 renewed and with a new path, and you're starting over. You're starting over. And that's how I look at it. And I tell everybody, what did you learn in 2025? What did you learn? What did you learn not to do? What did you learn to do? Take that with you into the new year and utilize it because you know what worked and what didn't. And with AI, I love it. I use it all the time. Now, what I'll do is I even have a friend that is using AI to diagnose a heart condition. And sometimes she can't get into the doctor, but she uses this. I can't remember the name of the device, but it monitors a lot of what's going on in her system. She will plug it into AI and it will give it. Now, I'm not saying you can do that for your health, but you can certainly do that to just see what's going on. I think AI is going to bring back a lot of time for us because it's so quick. And the nice thing is when I use AI, I'll speak what I want, but I can take it, copy and paste it, and then make it into me. So it's kind of just like for me a basic outline, and then I put myself into it. I interject me into it. I'd look at it and say, well, I wouldn't say that, so I find what I would say. And so I use it to free up time for myself. And I don't think it's going anywhere personally. And people that are afraid of it, there's nothing to be afraid of. People were afraid to use a debit card in the day. And it's because it's new. We haven't tried it. But personally, I think it's very helpful. If I have something that I can't remember, I'll just speak into it. And it's like, boom, I don't have to get an encyclopedia out. I don't have to go to anything. But AI is right there, and it's in seconds that I get my answer. So personally, I use it. I love it, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Will it replace some jobs? Yeah, I think it will. But when old jobs end, new things are created. It's just a cycle. And we always have to have
Likewise.
old that ends, and we always have to have new, just like the year 2025 gone, 2026 is here.
Exactly, totally agreed with you, Nicole. And people are kind of, you know, considering AI like an evil nun or something. It's not like that. It's super obvious in front of us. We are already using it, and I think people who believe AI is dangerous, they are also using it somewhere. Because I don't think so. There's any place where we could not find AI. AI is in our phone. You know, we scroll through Facebook. Facebook has implemented AI that has Facebook has maybe a chatbot as well, in Meta, because Meta is the company that has created Facebook and all those apps. So we cannot hide from AI. AI is everywhere and it is really important in our life.
Yeah, it really is. And just like, I mean, when I go on my Zoom, I can turn AI on to record it. I mean, everything is AI now. It is not going away. So become friends with it.
Exactly.
Use it for the
And
greater good. Learn from it.
yeah, and if you talk to Chat GPT, there's another fact that if you talk to any human person, it has an emotion. If you talk something uh, angrily, like if you're angry and talking to that human, that person is gonna reply you back with the same emotion, with the same way. But if you talk
Yes.
Chat GPT in in an angry way, or even if in a bad way, it is not gonna reply you in that same way. The Chat GPT will reply you in a positive way because it is trained to do that, it is instructed to do that. So you have a human that is really religious, I would say, that is not gonna uh, you know tell you something bad. It is always assisting you and in a lot of ways. So anyway, what's the first step for someone who wants to start forgiving themselves or others, but feel stuck?
The first thing you have to kind of access your memory and your subconscious because that's where everything is. And just identify, where do you feel a tightness? Where do you feel a pain? Where do you feel the anger? And I always tell people your body knows everything. Your brain might not remember, something might be in your subconscious, but your body will give everything away. And do you have a tightness in your stomach? Is it in your chest? Do you get headaches? What is holding you back? And it's always something. And so a lot of times I'll use meditation to relax people, a little bit of hypnosis, and we can go right in and find when, where, why, how. And it could even be a past life. If you believe in that, I personally do. And I've even found when I've been in hypnosis, I'm deathly afraid of snakes. Deathly. I never knew why. And I went back to a life where I saw myself being bitten in a field by an asp, and I died from that snake bite. Now, some people might say that's crazy, but when you're born and you're not familiar with anything, why do you have an unnatural fear of snakes? I shouldn't, but I do. And so I wanted to find out why. So there's a lot of ways to find out where to begin with that. And you're the key. I'm the guide. You're the key to yourself. You know everything. You just don't know how to get to it yet.
Exactly, and I would say hypnosis is not just a word, or it's not a small thing. It's the word itself. Yeah, it is a big thing. There are a lot of things added in hypnosis. There are a lot of kind of hypnosis people do based on situations, based on people who uh, are your clients or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of people are afraid of it because they've seen stage hypnosis where you make people do silly things, or they act like something that they normally wouldn't. But the reason they've been pulled up to the stage is because the person that's the hypnotist has been taught to identify someone that is very easy, let's say it, to manipulate maybe. But I tell people, I said, when you drive every day, it's highway hypnosis. When you watch a movie, you're so dialed into it, it's hypnosis. So there's many times we are under very light hypnosis without even knowing it. And you do need to trust the person you're working with.
Exactly, exactly. Because of people have limited knowledge, they don't know uh, sometimes they're in a situation they don't know how to get out of it because they don't know about that, and the only way is to go to the experts, go to the people who know who knows more than you and who are expert in their fields. And we should go there, we should contact them, and so that they can guide us. But you know ignoring a situation can become a reason behind your death. you know
Absolutely.
like people keep ignoring things, and then finally a time comes when they don't have any option. They're stuck, and then they think, if I would go to someone who could heal me, then it would be a better deal than this. you know so yeah. Nicole, it was pleasure meeting to you, and it was truly a nice conversation. And I would say we have now less topics like that. We go to YouTube and we find a lot of podcasts, a lot of conversations, but people are mostly talking about you know meaningless things, about Trump and Iran war, about Israel, about you know a lot of other things. These are not meaningless. These are all important at their place as well. But the things audience are the people are looking for, through which they can heal themselves, are more important than these things. We should talk about
Yes.
them. We should bring all these topics for the people so that they can finally heal themselves.
And you know that when they watch something like that and they get themselves worked up over it, that's the plan. That's really what the powers that be want, in my opinion. I know it's happening, I understand that, but how are we ever going to come together as humans if we don't, if, I okay, you're from another part of the world and sometimes it's been war torn. Well, that divides us. I don't want that to happen. I don't want us to be divided. I want us to work for the greater good, to clear yourself of misconceptions, to clear yourself of the anger. Well, this country did that and this person did that. All that does, all that does is create fear, friction, dissension, and separation. I will not allow myself to be put in a position where that will happen to me, because I want to help everybody. I don't care where you're from. If you need my help, I don't care if you're male, I don't care if you're female. As long as you're respectful and we get along and you trust me, that's what counts. Not the war, not Trump, not anyone. It's you and I together, with you taking the lead and I'm your guide.
I think the only thing matter is that we are humans,
Humans.
and whether you're brown, whether you're white, whether you're black, whatever skin do you have, if you're human, and then you deserve everything a human deserves.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's only the important thing.
I agree
Yeah.
with
Thank you
that.
so much, Nicole.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you saying
No, I said
something?
I agree with you, and I'm glad you brought that up because I agree 100%.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Nicole Harvey, for giving me your precious and valuable time. It was such a great conversation, and as I mentioned earlier, I put my heart into these conversations, and meeting these wonderful people from you know from other countries, from different places, really enlighten me, empower me, and gives me energy. So it was so nice speaking to you, and I hope my audience got some podcasts. Can you hear me? Hello.
Can you? Yeah, I wanted to tell you, I wanted to thank you and tell you it's an honor to be a guest on your show.
Thank you so much. So, guys, inshallah, meet you soon with another amazing podcast and with another amazing episode of the Future Jobs podcast.